Hello everyone, welcome to today's Novedge webinar, Inventor 2020, What's Really New? Join our webinar and learn how the latest updates in Autodesk Inventor Professional 2020 deliver and improve on the professional-grade tools you depend on every day. Get more done in less time with performance improvements in part modeling, assembly work, and drawing documentation. Today's we have not one but two presenters, Jim Byrne and Luke Mihelcic. Jim joined the design and manufacturing marketing team at Autodesk in 2013, and he has also 3 years of experience in the industry as a machine designer, while Luke has been involved with design, engineering, and analysis since 1995. So they're legit. And this is Jim, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of Luke today. And now let me show you a little bit the page where we carry our Inventor Professional on the Novedge catalog, and Novedge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software. We offer more choices, more freedom, best advice, faster service, and most importantly, no headaches. Check us out at novedge.com. And I want to remind you that we're all over. We're on social media. We're, you name it, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You know the drill. And again, this video will be recorded and will be posted on our YouTube and Vimeo channel. And now I don't want to waste any more of your time and pass the baton and give full stage to Jim. Take it away, Jim.
Okay. Thanks, Barbara. Welcome everyone to this webinar. As Barbara had mentioned, Luke and we are very excited about this Inventor 2020 release, and we're looking forward to covering all the great new features and enhancements with you. I'm the guy there that has the beard, and Luke's handsome mug is on the left. He sometimes has a beard, but he went clean shaven for his profile picture. So I'm going to get us started with the first few enhancements and then pass it over to Luke in just a few minutes. One thing I want to point out first, though, is, wow, this is the 20th birthday for Inventor. So happy birthday. I wasn't here at Autodesk at the time when it was first released, but I do remember when it happened. And some of you on the call may have been dedicated users of Inventor since the beginning. And I want to say that time flies, but a lot really has happened to Inventor over the years. And every year, this is a very exciting time. And as always, the developers do an amazing job of including the enhancements that make you more productive. So anyway, all right, Luke, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Let's go.
Okay, let's get started. So just a quick note about the focus for this year. Inventor 2020 it's built for you, engineers and designers. And more importantly, it's driven by you. We continue to focus on things like performance, core modeling, and as you'll notice, a great new interface that's going to make you more productive, and it has a more modernized look and feel. And some of you may know that when we kick off a new release of Inventor, we look at a few different areas, starting with professional grade. A lot of that is the core modeling functionality that you use every day. That's most of the things that you're doing when creating parts, creating assemblies, creating drawings. And then there's also the connected piece. And that's things like AnyCAD, where you can maintain an associative link to files that have been opened from other CAD systems. And then there's shared views for sharing designs with others on any device. And then the third segment here is the Inventor experience. That's the user interface, installing the product, and it's also Inventor ideas. We get a ton of ideas that the Inventor team spends a lot of time on reviewing and implementing for the next release of the software. So it seems appropriate to talk first about the user interface, since it's the first thing that you're going to notice when you install Inventor 2020. We're very excited about this. On the left, you're looking at the 2019 user interface, and on the right, we have Inventor 2020. And I'm showing you AutoCAD and Inventor to illustrate a couple things. First, we're providing you with a new modernized look and feel. And also we're creating a cohesive experience across our product portfolio, because one of the things that we realize is that many of you on the call use multiple Autodesk products. It's not just Inventor. And we don't want you to feel like you're constantly switching gears when you switch between applications that you use on a regular basis. And another thing that you're going to notice is the new light theme interface. We've adjusted lighting styles. We've brightened them up. There's new icons and colors and feature manipulators. And we've also been working on the property panel, which I'll talk more about in the next slide. And there's also an excuse me, a new pull down that you can see in this slide for driving quality settings. You're going to see high quality, you'll see balanced and performance, and these options are going to automatically change your settings for optimal performance if you're working on a large assembly, or you can use high quality for when you're presenting to a customer, or maybe you prefer to work in that environment. It's going to use the new light theme IBL, the realistic visual style and shadows. So this is something that you could manually do in the past, but what we're trying to do is make it easier for you, so you don't need to think about or research the settings that you have to change for high performance or high quality graphics. So let's take a closer look at the user interface. Like I said earlier, we want cohesion across the other Autodesk products. The property panel, if you recall, we started the property panel a couple of years ago with the measure command. And then last year, we updated the whole dialog to the property panel. And it has been successful, so we added several new commands this year. And I'm going to talk more about the panel, but before I do, it's important to understand that the panel, it's not just a new look. The purpose of the panel is to make you more productive. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, how is that? Well, first, you may have noticed that the breadcrumbs at the top of the panel. What that does is it enables you to quickly switch between editing your sketch, your 2D profile, and the feature options. For example, if you create a sketch and then you go to the extrude command, you're able to edit the sketch without leaving the extrude. You can simply make your change to the 2D and flip right back to the extrude options in the panel. And so the next thing is presets. We added these for the whole command. Now you'll find them in the extrude as well. And these presets can be set for individuals or across your design team. And then we also improved the guides. They've been there in the past, but some of them were a bit unclear, so we updated those. And then edit in place, kind of like the breadcrumb, you have the ability to make changes to the dimensions for the sketch or the feature. You don't have to get out of the feature command to make changes to the dimensions on the sketch. And then another highly requested feature, better multi-monitor support. We know that many of you are using more than one monitor, so we want to, we made this experience better. So once again, on the property panel, these are the features that we have moved to the property panel for Inventor 2020. That's the extrude, revolve, sweep, frame generator, and thread. And we're trying to tackle the commands that are used the most. And then for those of you that who enjoy beta testing new releases, let us know your thoughts. So as you use these new panels, we spend a lot of time listening to to those who are using the software as you test the for example, the new whole panel from last year. So MultiMonitor support, the Inventor team recognizes that many of you, I believe more than 60% of you are working from 2 monitors. And so there's times where you prefer to use both of them for your design work. And now you have the ability to drag your models outside the Inventor application interface to other monitors. We've had great feedback on this. It was a huge request, and our customers are pleased to see that their support on this one. So we're going to take a look at most of the enhancements in action during this presentation. And once again, you're going to notice the fresh new look for the user interface, for the ribbon feature icons, and also the features in the browser. And we're using the new lighting style here called Light Theme, which complements the new icons in 2020. And there's also the new graphic presets for quickly switching from performance-based and high-quality graphic settings. And then here, watch how easy it is to move the designs outside the Inventor application to other monitors. And here's a look at the new property panel in action, where you can edit the dimensions in place. All the commands that you need are available in the property, or I'm sorry, in the panel for changing the geometry type, or your end conditions, the direction or taper angles. And once again, we hope that you're going to enjoy the flexibility to quickly switch between editing your sketch and the feature options using the breadcrumbs in the panel. Okay, so now Luke is going to take you through some of the new design enhancements for Inventor 2020.
All righty, thank you, Jim. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is the solid sweep. So this is a command that you can use to either add material or subtract material. This was something that you kind of could do in previous releases, but it didn't have the robustness that the current release does. So there's going to be lots and lots of things that you're going to see here in the video that we're going to play in a second. But the idea is it's another way to create complex geometry that can actually simulate a tool path for a machine tool, perhaps, if you want to kind of simulate what that's going to look like, or what removing that material looking like would look like. The next one is the unfold. This one was a pretty big one. We've been doing sheet metal for years and years and years, and we're really good at it. But one of the things that people have asked for is, what about stamped components? So if you imagine something that doesn't follow a typical sheet metal bend calculation, where you're actually deforming the material, we can now do that with our unwrap command. And what it does, as you can see in that image, is it kind of gives you an idea of high and low stresses that are going to be occurring on that material as it's being deformed through that punching or stamping process. And the cool thing is you can actually export this as a flat pattern with that material would be that's needed to create that stamp. Moving on to the next one is when it comes to finding loops and regions. So previously, anytime you had intersecting loops and regions, it was really difficult to choose what you wanted. And just with some, pretty easy enhancements in the background, they were able to make it, way more robust. And there's also some taper options where, what happens to that geometry when you taper it. So now you can merge those faces when you're extruding with different taper options on. The next one that I want to talk about is some of the design enhancements as it relates to sketch blocks. So sketch blocks now allow you to actually see relationships from one to another, where previously this stuff wasn't available. You could see information as a sketch related to a feature, but not necessarily a sketch block. So that's going to be available in your relationships tool. Content Center has some really great improvements that are going to allow you to do keyword searching, and there's a new quick wildcard character. So let's say you forget the name of something, but you know a portion of it, you can key in a portion of it, throw in a wildcard, and you can get that broader search to find those components when you don't necessarily know, let's say, the full name of that particular part that you're looking for inside of the Content Center. And like always, we want our customers to move from one release to the next. You know, we're putting in all this great technology, and there's been some really good migration enhancements. They're going to take over property panel and command presets automatically when you migrate from a previous version of Inventor to the most current. And now what we're going to do is take a peek at what this is going to look like in action. And there may be a bit of a delay in what I'm saying and what you're seeing, so I apologize for that. But if you take a look at the video, one of the very first things that we want to talk about is seeing that region and loop detection in action. Actually, we have a really cool animation of that pill moving using the solid sweep. But the first one we want to talk about in detail is the loop. You can see you have multiple loops. In some cases, these loops are overlapping, and you can really easily select one or another. So creating geometry is going to go super fast. You can see the information for the relationships as well. And then here's that solid sweep happening in action, and it's super simple. You basically have a tool body, and you have a path, and then what you're taking material away from. So you can see that you can really easily create complex geometry. You have all types of options to show off inside of that, like with that particular command, with that sweep, to create, again, that more robust type of geometry. And I think that's the end of that video, Jim. Otherwise, it may have froze up on my screen.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I think it might.
Oh, that's all right.
Hang on just a second, Luke.
Okay, I'm seeing the sheet metal now. I think we're just having a little bit of speed issue with it.
Let me change something real quick. I'll just leave it.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Don't worry about it. So let's move on to that next section. We kind of covered it anyways. So the next section I want to talk about is Frame Generator. So Frame Generator is a great tool inside Inventor 2020. If you're not using it, you should really check it out. It's a really quick, easy way to create frame style components from standard cross sections. And we have tons and tons of standards that we follow. And what we've done in 2020 is added some new end cap customization. This was something you would have to do manually previously. And we've also improved the notch command so that you can easily work with the property panel and create custom style notches. Continuing on with a little more frame generator stuff, we've also done a lot with the MultiMonitor property, and basically this is a usability enhancement here. So previously you could miter individual portions of a frame. What the MultiMonitor now allows you to do is you can kind of do these in succession or all at one time. So way more robust. It's going to speed up doing different trims and different extends, and you also can now easily remove the end treatment. So let's say you miter something and then you want to bring that back to its original state. There's an easy way to remove some of those end treatments. And then wrapping up the frame generator section is we have this brand new in-canvas manipulator, and it doesn't really show all that well in this picture, but when you're working with a frame member, you can imagine getting it in the right orientation exactly how you want it can be challenging. And previously there was a dialog box and you had to kind of pick which corner you wanted. Now that in-canvas manipulator is right on the edge that you're working with. It makes it super easy for getting the exact orientation that you want for your particular frame member. And we also now have some asymmetrical lengthen and shorten, so you can add different lengths to either end of that particular frame member. It doesn't have to be the exact same. And let's check out the video. Hopefully it'll play a little bit better this time. But one of the first things we want to do is take a look at some of that frame manipulator happening in place. The MultiMonitor is the next thing that we're going to take a look at, where it can actually miter different components. And once that MultiMonitor happens, you're going to see that asymmetrical lengthening and shortening. And then the last thing is, again, that manipulator in action, placing that controls on the edge that you're actually working with. There's also some file naming defaults that are in here that are going to make it super easy to have custom file names when you're creating your frame members, which is a huge benefit. That way you can kind of control the names of your files and don't have to have these random file names generated down the road. And I think that's about it, Jim. Alrighty, customer-driven improvements. This is a big one. So this is probably the thing that I'm most passionate about and most excited about. So these are things that you, our customers and individuals who are involved in our beta program and involved in the Inventor ideas, this is information we get from you. This is feedback that you say, you know, we want this to work this way. Could you change this particular feature or add this kind of functionality? And this is, again, probably the most exciting stuff that I think is happening, because we're answering the questions that you're having. So the first one is sheet metal mirroring. So right now, when you would mirror sheet metals, or previously rather, in 2019 and previous, they wouldn't be associated. So if you updated one, the mirror wouldn't update. Now the style from one to the other, so the new mirrored component is going to follow what that parent is set to. So you don't have to worry about updating them individually. Also, joints, you now have a center slot option. This doesn't seem like a really big deal, but if you've done a lot of assemblies and you're putting nuts and bolts and washers and different things together, the minute you have a slot that you're working with and you want to find the center of it, you now have to kind of find a way to do this. It typically takes multiple steps, where now we can do this with a single joint command. Similar to the naming that you saw with the frame generator, we now can set some default file name options for pipe and tube. And also the new design accelerator with shaft generator has been improved as well. So let's take a quick look at that video. So again, this all came from the Inventor ideas. And as you can see, there's going to be a mirroring sheet metal part idea that one of our customers felt would be important. So what we did, we implemented it. So now when you mirror a component at the assembly level that is sheet metal, you can see when you update that original style that new piece of sheet metal updates. You don't have to go in and make a secondary edit. Here is the joints working in action. You can see you can quickly, with a single joint, snap right to those centers of slots. So it's going to speed up that assembly process. Excuse me. Here is that unfold happening in action. You basically pick a face or an edge. It's going to align it. You can see that heat map. Blue is less stress. Yellow or red is going to be higher stress areas. The next thing we're going to do here is talk about taking that bill of material information and saving that. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the read-only mode. I totally forgot to mention that because we didn't have it on slide. So the read-only mode is another great option. In 2019, let's say you have someone in purchasing that needs bill of material information. You can easily send that bill of material information to them or they can gain it themselves rather using read-only mode, and it's not going to steal or take up a license inside of Autodesk Inventor. It is limited. They can't do anything but export bill of materials and do some measuring and slicing, but a really great option for perhaps sales engineers or, again, some folks in purchasing. And give it back to Jim, and he's going to talk about some performance.
Make sure I'm off from mute here. Luke, can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, so for performance improvements, this is something that we've been spending a lot of time on in every release, especially over the past few years. And this release is no exception. We've made improvements to things like entering in-place editing, window selection when using selection filters for component, part, or body, and also zoom, pan, zoom, and rotate performances improved, especially when multiple components are selected. And component patterns, they've also been improved for the preview display, computation, and patterning virtual components. And also more commands are available when working in Express mode, and the 3D section view performance has also been improved. It's also worth noting that there are performance improvements for tube and pipe as well. For the part environment, let's see here. For the part environment, you'll see better performance for nested feature patterns and identical feature patterns. Also, part files that contain imported DXF or DWG files are going to open faster. And in drawings, you're going to see improvements with view previews, changing the display of a part in an assembly using the browser as well, and faster auxiliary view creation, especially in large assemblies, and also faster section views. And with AnyCAD, there's better performance when referencing the open CAD file, or when opening a CAD file from another system. Hang on just a second. So here's a look at what we've done with performance. No matter what size assemblies you work with, it's exciting to see areas of performance improvements in all areas for parts, assemblies, and drawings. You know, it's not just about working with large assembly models. High performance is essential in drawings as well. Working with AnyCAD references, in this case STEP, you're going to see improvements when referencing files from other CAD systems. And then for those of you who enjoy working in Express mode, you can now leverage more workflows like skeletal modeling techniques. And then the use of the browser is now much more responsive, and zoom and pan has also been improved when you have a lot of components that are selected. We'll jump into the part environment here. In the part environment, you'll see performance improvements for feature patterns. This also means that associative patterns in your assemblies are going to generate quicker too. And then here in the drawing environment, we can create auxiliary and section views faster. Now for interoperability, one of the things that many of you on the call are familiar with is AnyCAD. It's the ability to open a file from another major CAD system in their native file format without the need to translate the geometry, and it remains associative. So if the model changes, it's going to update in Inventor as well. As expected, this technology requires a lot of dedication to stay up to date with the versions of those other CAD systems. And we've done that for CATIA, JT, Parasolid, Rhino, and SolidWorks. So sticking with the interoperability theme, Some of you are working back and forth between Inventor and Fusion 360 to do things like generative design, which is great. We want to make sure that there's a good workflow between them so you don't have to translate the data. This is something that we made available last year, and we're fully releasing the technology in Inventor 2020. Sorry. So once again, there's a couple of things improved with AnyCAD. First, you're going to notice better performance when referencing files from those other CAD systems. And we're continuing to update Inventor to work with those latest versions that I had mentioned. AnyCAD is really just one of the greatest enhancements for Inventor, and we're going to continue to focus on it for future releases. And additionally, the latest update makes it easier than ever to connect with Fusion 360 for generative design workflows to Inventor. Now you can simply reference the Fusion 360 file, eliminating the need to export and import the data. You can now access generative design as part of your subscription to the Product Design and Manufacturing collection. So for those of you who are new to generative design, you can set up studies to find the best possible solution based on your own design requirements. And any other changes that you make in Fusion 360 are going to reflect inside Inventor. This AnyCAD technology, like I said, it's a game changer for a lot of you on this call who are working with customers or suppliers that are using various CAD software, because it enables you to work with anyone, regardless of the CAD software that they use. So now Luke is going to talk about the latest point release of Inventor, which is hot off the press this week. I think you're muted, Luke.
I'm sorry, am I muted? Sorry, I was muted that whole time. It was a really good answer. I was going to say, I'm just going to answer a question, Jim, while we're going. So Pedro asked the question, how many parts can you put into your assembly? That's really going to depend on your system requirements and the PC that you happen to be running off of. We have a customer right now who has over 1 million parts in an assembly. They are running really big, really expensive computers, I imagine. So that is like on the absolute kind of high end. Based on your system and your PC requirements, you should have no problem running, multi-hundred, multi-thousand part assemblies when you're working inside of Inventor. So hope that answers your question. It kind of is really dependent on the system that you're running it off of. Obviously, a laptop is not going to do as well as a super powerful desktop that's kind of dedicated for CAD. So, but as Jim mentioned, hot off the presses, so the 16th, so yesterday, Inventor 2020.1, we do a handful of dot releases each year. This is the first one. And this one is chock full of really great stuff as well. So one of the first things we're tackling is inside of the part environment. And inside of the part environment, we've made some updates to the point creation. So when you're making holes inside of Inventor, you can really easily now have options for how you're going to create your points. You're also going to be able to change the annotation plane of your components. You're going to be able to go in when you've done 3D annotation. I typically had to delete it to redo that. Now you can actually change it after the fact. And one thing that's really powerful, and you see in that image on the bottom right, is all that kind of extra information there. So it says fillet bend radius 0.625, another bend radius 0.625. That's what we call extended part information. And it wasn't available everywhere, but now it's available in sheet metal, shells, splits, combines, patterns, surface features. So without having to dig into a component, you can get an idea of what that part was made up and what some of the dimensions are. So it can eliminate some measuring and some guesswork and having to dig into different parts and assemblies. Next slide, we're going to talk about the assembly environment, because we tend to make updates in multiple locations. So the design accelerator has been restructured for a handful of tools, and what this means is when you use design accelerators previously, it made a subassembly of those components that are included in that design accelerator subassembly. Now you can choose to have that subassembly on, or you can choose to have that subassembly off. It's totally up to you how you want to do that. So it gives you a lot more control. A lot of this stuff here is about controlling your assemblies a little better. Frame Generator has better controls on it. So the actual manipulator that we just talked about in 2020, it would show up at the end of a frame member. Now that controller shows up where you pick on that particular edge, and again, just is a little more user-friendly. Probably my favorite thing that happened in 2020 and 2020.1 is the ability to create virtual components. If you've ever had to create virtual components inside of Inventor, it was a pretty tedious process if you had more than one. Now you can very easily, via your bill of material or BOM manager, create multiple virtual components. And these are things that maybe you don't do a 3D model of, but you want to be included in your bill of material. So maybe things like paint, maybe things like a maintenance kit, or a wrench, a specialized wrench that goes along with that particular assembly for assembly and disassembly. Now you can do all of that quickly and easily inside of the BOM manager. And positional representations can now be just dragged to different locations. You don't have to worry about deleting them and recreating them, so you can kind of reorganize those all you want. And then finally, inside of the drawing environment, the iProperty dialog box has a ton of stuff added to it. So right off the bat, I'm a terrible speller. One of my favorite things is the fact that spell check is now included with all of your custom iProperty pieces of information that you're adding. Column width is now going to adjust automatically, so they won't be truncated whenever you go back and look at them. And previously, you had to delete these things one at a time. They've added the ability to actually delete multiple ones, or all of them, if you like, all at one time. So now we're going to check out the video, and hopefully this one plays. I think some of the other ones are playing slowly, and my voiceover wasn't right on top of it. But this is a new video, so I have a pretty good handle of what it should be. So the first thing that you're going to see inside of Inventor is this whole command working with this option, how it's going to choose and set up those center points. So it's super easy to turn this on and off. It's a toggle, and that basically is going to control how you're creating those holes. And it's, again, going to speed up that process and just make this a little more user-friendly. Next up is the design accelerators. This is a really important one because typically you are always going to have things happening with your assembly when using design accelerator components where maybe it didn't behave the way you thought it would be. The parts would turn into a subassembly, and there'd be a separate folder created where you're storing your files. And now the option for those design accelerators is you can actually go into those design accelerators and turn this on or off. So rather than having a big, huge assembly inside of your Inventor environment, you can now disable that, and it'll place everything at that level. So again, gives you options for how you're going to control your assembly structure. And you're really going to notice this. We're going to create these two different ways, one with it enabled, one with it disabled. And you really see the difference in your browser. It shows up in one of these is a super simple, just insert into this assembly. And then a separate one, it shows up as a really big subassembly with all these different things that make it up. So lots of options there. Also, the manipulator being where you select it on the screen, again, a big usability piece, makes it really easy when you're working with that frame generator tool. And then the next one is going to be the virtual components. So this is really powerful. Again, probably my favorite thing. So literally, you don't have to go in and create new part virtual and do that over and over again. So right at your bill of material level, you can create as many as you like, one after the other, and fill in some of the iProperty information. So it's really going to speed up that process. Here, you're going to see how easy it is to drag and drop your positional representations to a new location. And then finally, we're going to check out all of those different iProperty updates. So you're going to see when the spell check is happening, it's going to give you the little red squiggly line letting you know that it was misspelled. You're going to be able to go in here and add those components and see that spell checking happening dynamically as you're working on them. And also, again, that ability to delete multiple custom iProperties at one time rather than one after another. So it should, again, speed up a lot of things. And again, here's a look at the Inventor ideas. So if you haven't engaged with that, I would highly recommend it. Back to you, Jim.
So there's a few things that I want to mention for those of you who are accessing Inventor via the Product Design and Manufacturing collection that I mentioned earlier. First, some of you may have already noticed that in the past couple of months, there's been a rebranding effort for some of the products that work directly inside Inventor. Those products were previously named Nastran InCAD and Inventor HSM and nesting utilities. And those products are now named Inventor Nastran, Inventor CAM, and Inventor Nesting, and you can see that on the slide. We made these name changes to help better understand the tools that you have access to that work directly inside Inventor. We actually began this effort last November when we released Inventor Tolerance Analysis. And it's also worth mentioning that some of you on the call may not have installed Inventor 2020 right away. The product names for previous releases are going to remain unchanged. And so again, this is the Product Design and Manufacturing collection. It's everything that you need for professional grade design, for advanced simulation, also tools for manufacturing and generative design, or if you're looking to design and build efficient factory layouts, or even the creation of compelling sales and marketing content, just to name a few of the capabilities that speak to the offering. So Luke is going to finish with a few more slides before we jump into Q&A.
Yeah, so if you have Inventor 2019 and you're subscribing, the best way to get this is with the Autodesk desktop app. Hopefully you have that installed. It should have been telling you for the last few weeks now or months, because it's been available for about 2020 has been available for about 3 months now or so. But if you don't have the desktop app, you can log on to your Autodesk account, and that is where you can download your latest update. This may be a situation where you have an IT manager that you need to have a conversation with and ask them if they happen to have their name on that particular account. But either way, you should be able to get in to that account or the desktop app to get the latest version of Inventor 2020. The next thing I want to talk about is the slide is, there we go, is making your voice heard. And this is super important to us. It's probably the most important thing. And this is the Inventor feedback community. So if you're interested in participating in the beta, that's probably one of the best ways where we get feedback and information. Is number one, you get to see the software way early. You can give feedback, you can test things. And you can also do this via the Inventor Ideas. You don't get access to the early stuff, but the Inventor Ideas is where you go in, recommend updates, recommend improvements, request enhancements. And the really cool thing about the Inventor Ideas is the community inside of Inventor Ideas, they're the ones that actually vote on and make some of the requests to get those enhancements voted up to get the attention that they need. So if one of your counterparts or one of your people that you know in the Inventor Idea Station has an idea, you can actually vote for that, and it actually moves up the list for how they're going to work on these whenever they get to that point in working on the different content. And I think that is it. Other than we got a little bit of our contact information, and then we can do a little Q&A.
Unmuted.
Just wanted to open it up now. If anybody had any additional questions, we just had that one question about parts in an assembly, but if there was any questions now, this would be a good time to ask them. Just go to the question panel and type those in. We'll give it a minute or so. I know we don't have a big crowd today, but if you do have any questions, Jim and I'd be happy to answer them. And also, if you're interested, and maybe you don't have time to stick around and ask those questions now, Jim and I are really good at answering most questions, as long as you're not super, as long as it's not like a typical technical support question, that you could just, get through the typical help system. But make sure you check out Inventor on the Autodesk website. You can see it there. You can obviously talk with the folks putting on today's presentation to get your software. And then also you can reach out to Jim or myself if you had any additional questions. Looks like we do have one question. Yeah, can we render after a 3D design for any 3D machine or Inventor to make it more realistic? Yeah, so you have a couple different options there. The first option is you just do this right inside of Inventor. So if you look at that image on the screen right there, that is an image that Jim had created. I think he did a little bit of Photoshop on that with some of the coloring, but in Inventor, there is a high quality setting. So you can apply realistic materials, you can apply realistic shadows and shading, textures, stickers, you name it, to show up in a final rendering. And then as Jim mentioned, could you go back to the slide, Jim, that shows all the products in the collection?
Good thought.
So you can do it right inside of Inventor for sure. And I would say in most cases, it's going to get people back, or get people what they want. But let's say you need to take this a step further and you want something that is going to, be like mind-blowing visualization, 3ds Max as a part of the collection. So if you have the collection or are interested in doing those higher end visualizations, 3ds Max is the tool that professionals are using to create super hyper realistic things. So that gives you even like another step up. So it all depends on the quality that you're looking for. And I think that is it for questions. Again, I know we had a small crowd today. If you do have any questions, there's our emails. Please reach out to Jim or myself, and we'd be happy to chat with you. And I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you guys for your availability to answer after the webinar. That's a great perk. And I want to remind everybody, especially that are using older version of Inventor, the single products, that there's a promo right now, and until the end of the month, July 31st, you can get up to speed with 2020 or get a product industry collection from Design Manufacturing for 25% off if you get the 3-year deal. So this is pretty big. Check it out. Just letting you know. And thank you so much, guys. I'll take the screen back just to thank everybody for joining us today. And I would like to show you again where you can find Inventor Professional 2020 or the product design collection on our website, novedge.com. And I remind you that Novedge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software. You have a lot of choices, a lot of freedom, and you can get advice at any time by calling us. So you don't get, headaches, and you don't make mistake, and you get the right product that it's right for you. All right. Thanks again for attending, and I have been recording this session, so you can watch it again and share with your friends and colleagues. Just go on YouTube and Vimeo and search for Novedge. Thanks a lot, guys. This was outstanding. Looking forward to another webinar with you. Have a great rest of the day, everybody, and see you next time. Bye-bye.